r/askreddit. What is the dumbest thing you got punished for in school? Elementary, middle, junior high or high school? In 2nd grade, 1993, I dressed up as Aladdin for Halloween. My grandmother worked hard to make the costume as authentic as possible, down to the little patch on the leg. Everyone complimented me on the costume and I was riding high. Then I heard sobbing. Some little shit named John, a cribber B and overall shit student, also dressed as Aladdin, but his costume was garbage. No fez, just an off-color purple vest and some tanned sweatpants. He was weeping uncontrollably because my costume was better. He ran and hid in the coat room. My teacher flipped her shit on me and made me apologize to him. I didn't do anything wrong. I just had a better costume. I reluctantly apologized to the little shit, shook his hand, and was forced to remove my costume and let him wear his. Fuck that kid. Edit. Tons of people are saying fuck that teacher as opposed to fuck that kid, and I have to agree. John was a little shit, very much a dish it out but can't take it kind of kid, but this teacher had a reputation for being a colossal asshole. Literally every student in my class was reduced to tears by her at least once, some many times. She berated kids that couldn't read. She humiliated kids all the time for things that should have been private. She once made a girl literally faint because she was crying so hard after giving her shit for struggling to read. My mom ran into her a few years back at the grocery store, still teaching there. Claims she remembers both me and my sister, who also had her, fondly. Can't believe she's still employed in this day and age since that behavior is even less tolerated now. Maybe she got her act together. Edit 2. To respond to other things people keep bringing up, I have indeed told this story on Reddit once or twice before, though it's likely I did so under my old, now deleted, username. And John moved to Florida at the end of 2nd grade. No one missed him. This is just the opposite way of dealing with a problem. The kid now thinks that if he cries hard and loud enough, he will get what he wants. I was flirting with a girl I'd known since we were 4. Special needs kid got angry and punched me in the face. I got suspended for fighting. Words can't even describe how stupid zero tolerance policies are. Well, look on the bright side, you're done with the suspension, but that other kid is still retarded. The school provided bus being late. When the teacher who handed out the detentions was confronted by a large number of parent complaints, she responded with "not my problem." This is something you take up with the school and say what the hell, either control your buses or control your teachers. Edit. It has come to my attention that both of these options are good and we do not need to settle for only one. My school would make an announcement when they knew a bus would be late. Principal would come over the PA and say something like, "Bus 72 and 16 are late this morning, please excuse any tardy students." You would think other schools would do it too. I got months of detention for just this reason. I even filmed my walk from the bus to the school, and was told, buy an alarm clock. Working ahead in my textbook. This answer is not high enough. Biggest problem in education is this, limiting kids into their boundaries. I got detention for cheating in a test because my score was too high. I didn't cheat. I just studied. My brother was just punished for cheating too because the words he used weren't 7th grade level. He legitimately did his essay without copying anyone else's work. It makes me angry that teachers do this without any sort of proof. Edit. There. I fixed the grammar mistake. Put your pitchforks down. My hair gets highlights in it if I spend a lot of time in the sun. I came back to school after a 2-week beach holiday and got detention because I had colored my hair, even though the sun had bleached it. My lips go purple if it's cold, even if I'm not particularly cold in myself. I got a few detentions for wearing makeup before my mum phoned up and complained. In Japan, you cannot dye your hair at all. It's gotta be black. Well, that sucks for a few of my students who had to dye their hair black because they were on the swim team and the chlorine naturally started to discolor their hair. They didn't get in trouble, they just had to dye their hair black to match everyone else. Edit. For some confusion, the girl had to get her hair dyed for the graduation ceremony. They had let it slide for most of the year. She was in junior high school. Another girl I knew who was half Chinese had to do it pretty regularly, however. She had naturally brown hair. But she went to a pretty elite high school. And yes, anime lied to you, and any movie you see with a Japanese person with brown hair has had it dyed. They are 99.9% naturally black haired. My French teacher did not like me for some reason I could never guess. Anyway, one day during her exam she came to my desk and accused me of cheating when I wasn't doing anything wrong. So, I protested and said I am not cheating. She then proceeded to took away my sheet and asked me questions on test verbally. I replied correctly to all her questions. Now that she knew that she got nothing on me, she wrote -5 on my sheet because of me daring to protest. Spanish teacher accused me of cheating on a test once. Granted I was, but still. Haha. At some point these power tripping teachers need to just stop. When every kid in class is watching her be a dumbass, she's losing more respect than she's gaining by being a cunt. Got suspended for throwing paper airplanes in elementary school. Also my little brother's friend is in elementary school and he got in trouble for sexual harassment for saying this roses are red, violets are blue, no girl on earth is prettier than you. Misogynist pig. Roses are red. Violets are blue. People don't think it be like it is. But it do. I got in trouble for continuing to play tag after they told us we weren't allowed to play because it was too windy. The wind could have blown your arms upward into each other's eyes. A buddy of mine once had 10% of his grade lowered on a report because when he stapled them together, he did it horizontally instead of at a 45-degree angle. I thought that was ridiculous but couldn't help laughing. Edit. This was in a Los Angeles high school for those asking. Also, RIP my inbox. I actually had a job where I was repeatedly cancelled regarding my stapling angle. Then, went to a new location where I was again cancelled for doing it wrong. 45 degrees? Horizontal? Vertical? Why the fuck does anyone reading these papers have the time and energy to care about my stapling preferences? I got to third location of that job and when the subject came up I made it well known that I wasn't going to have my creative expression suppressed. I got detention for saying okay to my home economics teacher in middle school. Seriously. We were in class and she asked me to do something and I replied, politely, okay. The teacher has a detention board and a day later I see my first name on it. I have a very common name and, joking with her, went haha that's for me right? She said it was. I asked her what I did and she said it was because I replied okay to her when she asked me to do something and she hates when people do that. She just wants them to do it. I was stunned. I told her I wasn't going to detention. I got home and told my mom what happened. My teacher's son was in the same grade as my older sister so my mom knew the teacher. She ended up calling her and the teacher apparently was fumbling over her words trying to justify the detention. The next day, she goes to me you served this detention right, as a wink wink nudge nudge type of thing. I said no and I'm not going to. She goes no you served it right. I decided to just say sure and that was that. You should have said okay. In high school. The year I got there was the year they instituted a rule that you had to display your ID at all times while at school. If you didn't have your ID out, you could get detention. Due to reasons, I got to school about an hour before first bell and had zero way of getting back home or getting anything from home, well, until the end of school, of course. So I get to school and realize oh noes. I forgot my ID at home. Well, no problem, I'll just go to the office and get a temp one. Welp, turns out I should have tried to make it through the day without my ID, because I got detention anyway. And I knew that I had a greater than 95% chance of making it through the day without anyone who cared noticing I didn't have my ID out. But no, I tried to do the right thing. Well, fuck you school, you taught me a terrible lesson. The school board, I know. Why don't we punish the people that do the right thing to help breed resentment? I did the music at our monthly mass for my religion credit and got detention for a few weeks because I played the final countdown on the piano during the offering. Catholic schools, what are you gonna do? I just keep imagining the kids getting real pumped on their way to communion. I actually have a great story on this one. In 4th grade, or something, I had this old bitch of a teacher we all really hated. Let's call her Catherine, her actual name. So I was hanging out in the schoolyard when some first graders came running towards me and kicked me in the nuts. With absolutely no reason whatsoever. So I started crying and screaming from the unbearable pain I was in. Catherine comes running and starts screaming at me for making a scene. She starts screaming at a little kid who just got his nuts kicked far up his stomach. So I scream right back at her, and she asks me if I wanted to move this whole discussion to the principal's office. Knowing I was being treated extremely wrong, my answer is of course yes. Catherine ended up getting yelled at by the principal for 20 minutes or so, and I got to go home 3 hours before school ended. Best day ever. In 3rd grade my mom had me do some experimental ADD medication thing that caused a bunch of weird tics and shit. Apparently I kept making some face, because my teacher drew 3 stars on a post-it note and whenever I made the face, she crossed off a star. I lost all 3 and got 3 days in detention for recess. Plot twist, I didn't actually have ADD. I got morning detention for running my hand against the brick wall in middle school. I was talking to my girlfriend and wasn't paying attention and just dragging my hand along the wall as I walked down. Supposedly the teacher thought I was banging on the walls. Banging your girlfriend on the wall? I got sent to the principal's office in the 2nd grade because during nap time, I would stealthily read a book. Dropping a pencil. Got shouted out for possibly breaking the lead inside the pencil. It was a fucking pencil. Edit. I forgot to mention the best part. I was 17 years old at the time. This was in college. Double edit. Different kind of college, guys. This was a 16+ higher education deal, not a university. I was there getting a maths degree. So my mother had an interesting relationship with my high school. They would call her, and she would laugh and hang up on them. One day I was caught making out with a girl in the halls. We were both pulled into the principal's office and told that since you've been otherwise good students they were going to let us off with a warning and not call our parents. To which I said good, because we weren't breaking any rules. After some arguing, we pulled out the school rule book, and lo and behold, it wasn't actually against the rules to make out in the halls. So naturally, having been proven wrong, they got upset and called my mom. She laughed at them and hung up. Another time, I had received some academic honors or another from a third party outside the school. So the school decides they want to throw a second award ceremony for me and the other student who'd received the award. I told them I had better things to do on a Friday night than sit around while they all congratulated themselves for my achievements. So they called my mother, hoping she'd force me to go to their little party. She laughed at them and hung up. But I think the best one was when the school finally decided to pass a rule banning the wearing of hats on school grounds. Yes, I know to all you young'uns it's always been that way, but that rule wasn't passed in my school until my senior year. And the reasons for doing so were the stupidest things, like hygiene, as if people who weren't going to wash their hair were going to start washing because they couldn't wear hats, and gangs. We were in the most white, upper middle class area you can imagine. So I organized a hat day protest. I stood just off school grounds and handed out flyers to everyone as they came to school. I got nabbed as I was hanging posters in the halls. They pulled me into the principal's office, and once they'd realized how much I'd done to organize the protest, they gave me 2 weeks detention for, I shit you not, inciting revolution against the school administration. I had that pink slip framed. Then they called my mother, who laughed at them, and hung up. I have more of these, but I think you get the picture. Not being able to read the teacher's handwriting. Looking back, the whole situation was hilarious, but at the time, he was a tyrant of a teacher and everyone was scared of him. He was writing notes on a whiteboard which we had to transcribe into our notebooks. One of the sentences had the words glass tube in it. He wrote the SS in a way that it looked like an M. Being young and naive, I asked, what is a glam tube? He went mental, shouting at me and dragged me across the desk by my ear, screaming about me not being able to read and shouting glam tube. I'm sure it ended up in a detention for me. Less than a year later he was dismissed as a teacher from the school due to anger issues. I got a lunchtime detention for writing too big on the whiteboard. True story, I got out of school suspension for skipping school. I once coughed in an exam and the invigilator thought I said pedo when I did it. Fast forward 6 months and before mentioned teacher gets asked to leave and it emerges he had been getting way too friendly with young students. Funny thing is that I genuinely just coughed. Methinks he may have had a guilty conscience. I was eating a sandwich at my locker after school and got a detention. Got suspended for responding to the prompt, what one item would you bring with you if you were a pioneer on the Oregon Trail with a rifle and bullets? I was in the 3rd grade. Dad took me squirrel hunting on the day I was suspended. Turned out better than expected. Edit. I think it's worth mentioning the teacher in question was only there for a year before the school fired her for the numerous complaints from parents. I was only one of many students she punished for silly reasons like that. Edit 2. No, it wasn't because I said 2 items. One of the rules of the activity is that we could bring additional items if those items were required to make the first item work and wouldn't be very useful on their own, i.e., bullets. I was suspended because she told administration that I had discussed inappropriate matters in class by referencing hunting. I got my desk taken away from me in 2nd grade for collecting rocks in it. I forgot my swimming costume for PE, gym, and got a detention, even though our lesson didn't include swimming. Edit. Swimming costume equals swimsuit. In 5th grade I was not allowed to go on our field trip and had to sit in a room alone reading the entire day, all because I fought back when another kid punched me in the eye. Fuck zero tolerance policies. Little did they know, I love sitting in rooms alone reading.